Hi, this is CS 170, the rest of chapter 4. Uh, Let me come back up to here and get going. Uh, so you guys remember in your modules, let me step back out here. In your modules, CS 170, here's the modules, here's the HTML, right here, your HTML reference sheet. Oops, I clicked on resources. Here's the reference sheet right here. Okay, so good reference. I'll have some escape characters for you in a second. But you have all these different things. Here's the skeleton. Here's the different tags. So I would consider this to be something that you're going to be looking at for reference for your exam. Okay. Here's the CSS Style Sheets that was in the earlier lecture for chapter 4 for styling. Okay. So let's come back to here. So escape symbols, right? Escape symbols, you have this ampersand sign, and it'll be for certain characters like this. You recognize a lot of these have some meaning for HTML. So in order to avoid confusion, you have these escape symbols to represent these. So you don't just type less than sign. You put this ampersand LT. Okay, and some people saw this Nbsp. Doesn't really do anything, just like a fluke of the editor. It's just really a space here. So let me come to here. You can see the browser is showing the less than OL greater than tag. So you have this here. I'm going to zoom on this so you can see closer. Okay, ampersand LT, don't forget the semicolon, OL, ampersand GT for greater than, and semicolon. Okay, and that's what you get to here. Now the other thing you see is this Nbsp text. That's why you see this space here. You remember, if I take this out, if I put a whole bunch of spaces here, you can see nothing changes here. You just have the text, right? So the way you can represent that you really want a text is you put this Nbsp, and you can see it just keeps on adding more spaces to it. Okay, so that's what the Nbsp is. I know some of you saw that the editor kind of put it in here automatically, like somewhere up the top with the P and the /P, and then they put Nbsp, which really doesn't do anything. It's just like some empty space up at the top. Okay. So these are escape symbols. I have to talk to the professor if we can get these added to the HTML reference sheet or not. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Some of you were asking me about this before. So let me step down to here. So these two things, list tags, ordered and unordered, they follow pretty similar types of formatting and structure, right? With the unordered list, and if I look at the ordered list, really the only two difference between them is you see 1, 2, 3, that's for the ordered list, and then you see bullets for unordered list. And then each of the elements, you have an LI, right, before and after. and you list each of the elements. So the general format for these lists is UL or OL here, and then within that, each element, you have an LI like this, okay, and then it looks like that. Here's your ordered list. You see it's pretty much the same thing except it's an OL. Okay, that's about it. The additional thing that you want to come away from this is you have the possibility of doing sublists. Okay, so you can see the output here, right? This is one list to say the cities, New York and Philadelphia, and then these are sublists where within New York you have two teams. You have the Giants, Jets, and then under Philadelphia you have the Eagles. Okay, here you can see the UL as the first level, and within that each element is New York and Philadelphia. But then within that you can add another list. You can see what happens here, right? And then same thing, once you define the list within that, you can still do li to list each of the elements there. Okay, so that's really what you need to know for lists, right? The general structure, ul, ol, within that, each of the elements with li, and the fact that you can do these things within their lis to show another list. Okay, and then the difference between unordered and ordered lists is, like I said, the bullets versus the numbers. Okay, and then you have this. I actually tagged over to this quickly. So you have this definitional list. It's kind of similar to the other tables, but the structure is just slightly different. So definitional list, you know, this is kind of similar here where you have this DL. So it's the same thing as your OL and UL. Okay, but then within that, you kind of have two things. One is this DT, right? So you can Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. These are the DTs here, right? And then within that, you have these DDs here, okay? So what they're calling like definitional data, okay? So it's slightly different. If you're looking at the other two, the ordered table, ordered list, unordered list, it would kind of set up as sort of like sub list. Here they're just doing it slightly different. You have this DT, and then within that you have DD. Okay, and it's really just tabbing over within those. So that's really the main difference, right? So these are the kind of different ways you can list data for HTML. Okay. Here, the main thing here, and this is one of the things I'm gonna do a demo for you on. You have the image, right? I think we were showing the image with I think the last lecture, whichever lecture with I did the koala bear reference. So the main thing here, we're still going to use the IMG. The main thing you're trying to get to here is this float left and float right, which I'm going to demo to you in a second. Okay, and so what I've done is I've set up here this reference here because I know for some of the extra credit or the assignment there were some questions about referencing an image that's out there on the internet versus your local stuff. So I think by me kind of doing this HTML editor, it was quick and easy. You can get instant result by seeing this here. But if you really want to do a web page, which I think your TAs are going into, but I'll show you here, I think there's some aspects that I want to kind of go over with you. So if you want to do this yourself, you know better. So one, I think remember this last time, is this indexed HTML. And let me look at the properties here. And you can see the location, right? So you can see the C drive, users, Chris, desktop, CS170 default. And that's what that is here. So that's what I'm referencing. I'm referencing this, and then when I do, that's what pops up on the browser. Okay? And then, let me see, I think I have this up on Notepad. Yeah, I have a Notepad here. So really, what I would do, I'm using Notepad++ on a PC here. What I would do is play around with this, save it, and then refresh on my browser here. Okay, so I didn't really like doing that because it's just like a couple extra steps. But the reality is you have to do something like this. You have to play around with a file, and it comes up to here. You refresh your browser. Um, One thing I would point out here, this is where you could have put in your reference to something out on the internet. In this case, I'm doing an absolute file path, which shows the full path. So again, this looks familiar. C:, users, Chris, desktop, and then the name of my file is shissa.jpg. Okay, and in this case, I'm doing a float right, which is how you have this guy all the way over to the right. Let me switch this to float left. Let's see what happens. Hit this, and then I hit refresh, and you have this. Okay. And then if I do none, and then I refresh, puts it back up here. Okay. So this, plus I'm going to be showing you the tables in another lecture, would be something you can mess around with. So number one, you can mess around with doing the actual HTML file local to your computer. You can also play around with referencing a file local to your computer. You can play around with using absolute path, which is what I'm doing here, or you can use relative relative path. So in this case, considering where I'm at, I would be doing a dot dot slash dot dot slash and then this file, shissa.jpg. So that would be a relative path because I'm going back up the tree from where my HTML file is. So again, this is something I would suggest you play around with. So I'll talk about this in my next lecture, where I'll just kind of recap what the extra credit will be for this week, which essentially will be to practice the advanced HTML. And we'll be doing table, we can do lists, we can do floating for your image, and like I said, we'll have you use a regular HTML file, and you can play around with absolute path and relative path. So that checks off a lot of different boxes that you should get practice on for the exam. Okay, so I'll see you back here soon for the next lecture for tables. Thank you.